Ron and the leadership team, but most importantly, all of you for letting me be part of the company and experience just an unbelievable place. I just passed the 6-month mark, and it's amazing to me. As coming from Detroit, I get emails literally on a daily basis about the world's caving in for a lot of the Michigan companies. And can you help me find a place? What am I going to do? How are we going to get through this? And as you just saw in Jeff's presentation, I mean, the financial performance here is rock solid. And the reason it's rock solid is because the concept is rock solid. And the reason the concept's rock solid is because you all are rock solid. And before coming up here, I thought about all the projects that were going on, and I thought, I had to single out some of the real successes, but there are just so many things going on. I thought unless I was given an hour, I just wouldn't do adequate service. So I just say, for a lot of you, I know you're in the position where you don't get all of the daily kind of pats on the back and kudos that you might get the immediate feedback in the cafe, etc. But you guys are really the backbone, keeping everything running, have had a lot of great successes this year, have worked really hard. You ought to take a lot of credit in what was up there. And I was saying earlier in management orientation that this commitment to no shortcuts just has blown me away, continues to blow me away. And that's the reason things are going so well right now is, frankly, I've been in environments where, folks did take shortcuts, they took advantage, and that put them in a position where it leads to the kind of emails that I'm having to answer now from friends who are really struggling in Detroit. So thank all of you for everything you've driven. One of the things that's a great opportunity that I'll talk about tomorrow in a lot more detail for the folks going to the family reunion is marketing, which I inherited in the last month. Because of all the groups, I look at that and say that's one of the greatest benefactors of how rock solid things are here, because as opposed to a lot of companies which spend a ton of money, time, and effort driving marketing to try and make something look better than it really is, this is a concept which down to its core is just as good as it gets. So again, thank you so much for me to let me be part of the company, to be in a place where we have all these great opportunities going forward where we can take advantage of them and we can talk about that as opposed to talking about all of the issues we have to deal with the economy, even though we have to deal with those. So we're going to take a little break here, do Mad Money, and then Ron's going to come up.
No break.
Mad Money?
No, it's going to go up, it's not a break.
No, I meant a break from yippity yap, as you would say. And we'll have a different kind of the ultimate yippity yap on Mad Money, and then we'll be back to Ron the yippity yap us all.
Embarrassed to be seen on a show about stocks? Embarrassed to be talking about a good stock in a sea of bad stocks? No, I'm talking about Panera Bread. Panera Bread was one of the few bright spots in an absolutely hideous session. A tiny point of green on a blood red tape. Last night, the restaurant chain reported a better than expected quarter. That's somewhat unbelievable itself, right? Beating the street's consensus earnings estimate by 2 cents. Panera's comp store sales grew by 3%, again somewhat amazing, and margins came in around 15%, both higher than expected. Look, we've liked this stock for a long time. It's a horrible market. Can we find something that when the market gets better, will start making us a lot of money and won't lose us a lot right now? I want to know if Panera can keep up what we just talked about, or if this is the last good quarter for a while. And I'm talking about more than just the 3 Paneras where I buy the classic with chicken, whole tomatoes for my daughter after every big field hockey game, which is 1-1 this afternoon. Down 1-0 for half. Alright, anyway, back on July 23rd, I recommended this as a play on lower gas prices, causing more people to go out to eat, and lower wheat and grain prices, reducing Panera's input costs. Alright, market's been bad, the stock's down 13.6% from where I highlighted it. But the cost savings are happening. The company now expects wheat prices to come in at $12 a bushel for the fourth quarter, down from $15 a bushel in the last quarter. And all of its wheat requirements for 2009 are locked in at $9.50. I say hallelujah. Another company that saw prices going down. Panera has the cost controls, but can it keep its customers? On the conference call, they pointed out that traffic fell by 3%, compared to 5 to 10% fall off of the industry. So does that make Panera worth owning? Or is it simply the best house in a bad neighborhood? Can Panera still deliver as we head into a severe recession? we need to do more homework, which is why I'm thrilled to bring back on a man who understands the game, Ronald Shake, the chairman and CEO of Panera Bread. Mr. Shake, welcome back to Mad Money.
Hey Jim, good to speak to you again.
Absolutely great. Now look, you did deliver. You said you were going to deliver on the show, and then you go and deliver. Now here's the issue for me. Is this one of those moments where it really doesn't matter what you do, it's just going to be too hard? Or are there ways to be able to make it so that everyone else is faltering, and you and I both know in the restaurant game a lot of guys are faltering, and you can make your move now into the top 10 restaurant chains in America?
Yeah, well, we're the 14th largest today. Jim, let me share with you something. A recession is actually a good thing for a company like Panera. You know, you start in Panera, we start with a concept that has essentially the highest customer satisfaction in the industry. You add to that a situation where our returns have actually been up in 2008. Few others have that. You got strong cash flow and you got a balance sheet with no debt. What that means is this is an opportunity. And if you come through and you think about the recession, you think about a year or 2 years from today, what does Panera want to be doing? Well, first, it wants to differentiate. We have an opportunity while everybody else is out there cutting quality, trying to meet the needs of investors and banks. We improve the quality in that time of faith.
I was amazed when I went through the quarter. All the lines I like to see from a company: your raw cost down, your labor cost down, your margins up. How are you able to do it when everyone else says that it's going the wrong way?
Well, as you said in your introduction, you've got two factors. You've got comps that are up 3.5%. At the same time, you have margins up 130 basis points. We essentially did it by finding ways to offer higher quality food that people are willing to pay a little bit more for.
Well, you used a great example. You said our customers may trade down from a Lexus to a Toyota, but they'll still go to Panera 3 times a month. How do you come up with that calculation?
Well, it's real simple. Look around. Look at all the lists of disposable discretionary items. Oprah's list. We're at the bottom of those lists. We're not at the top. We're talking about a purchase each month that's $30, $35. For most of our consumers, a recession is really a depression if you're out of work. For most of our people, they're not out of work. Their lives haven't changed.
You made a great point in the call also. You said that there are lots of turmoil with developers.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity too, because what's happened is you have cash. They're not afraid of your balance sheet. There's places like Bennigan's that were afraid. Are you getting the offers that you've been waiting for to be able to build new Paneras?
Well, you know, the market is in transition. Certainly we're seeing some weakening in the commercial real estate market. On the other hand, a number of developers are pulling back on their projects. There's countervailing forces, but ultimately this recession is good for strong companies like Panera. We'll come out of it stronger. We'll differentiate, we'll develop, and it's also an opportunity to attract strong people to our company.
Right. I was thrilled when your call. Someone said, are you going to do a buyback? And you said, wait a second. We got a great balance sheet. We got to grow. A lot of our viewers say, well, Jim, you always emphasize dividends. I emphasize dividends when I think a company doesn't have growth. You don't need to buy back stock here, do you?
No, well, Jim, it's something our board looks at every quarter. But very, very specifically, we think a conservative balance sheet is a strength in times like this.
Absolutely. You said something on the call, though, that I was concerned. There is one issue that I was not sure about, which is you have a lot of franchises. Now, I read in the paper that it's very difficult to get a loan to buy a franchise. How's that affecting you?
Well, actually, we don't have a lot. We have 35 different franchisees that represent 700 cafes. In essence, these are middle-sized businesses, $50 to $100 million, that have strong cash flow in their own right, strong abilities to borrow, and often very strong lines of credit. So we really are minimally at the effect of the financing issues relative to franchising.
You were really ready for this, weren't you?
We're ready for it. We've been working on this for a year. In fact, let me tell you something, Jim. We have targeted guidance for the fourth quarter of up 50% in EPS. That's the midpoint of our range for the fourth quarter, and we fully intend to hit it.
Excellent. Ronald Shake, Panera Bread Chairman and CEO. You are the man. Thank you so much for delivering. Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Be good.
Guys, listen, no one's delivered other than McDonald's and Panera. You want the good, solid dividend and good growth, Jim Skinner and McDonald's. You want a little great growth, something fast that is going to win when the smoke clears, and is winning now. It's Panera. And by the way, yeah, I eat there.
What do you think? Should I roll good thing? A good
You're not on.
Two bald Jews, they could call the show.
Turn the mic out, buddy.
I'm saying, do you think I should grow a goatee?
Turn the mic on.
I got to do this. All right, I'll try it again. What do you think? Should I grow a goatee? We could call the show Two Bald Jews. I can make the joke, you can't. What do you think happens? That ran, what, last week when we released earnings? What do you think happened afterwards? What? Went up? Went down? What happened? Went down! Went down, went up, went down, went up. It's basically 3 or 4 points down from where it was when we released those earnings as of today, as of tonight. In the middle of the day, it was down 20%, but by the end of the day, the Dow had a big run up at the end and was down just a couple of points. So what's happened? Let me see if I can put it in context. 8 companies have released earnings in the last week in the restaurant industry. We're the best of all of them. Out of all 8, we're the best record, okay? We saw it. Chuck E. Cheese is crawling across the floor. You know, Bennigan's is bankrupt. Ponderosa's bankrupt. You see all kinds of companies. You know, it's just amazing to me, right? Starbucks down 10% their comps. Here's the point. What we really are at this point is the tallest pygmy in the jungle, okay? That's really what it amounts to. We're in a situation where the world is under intense pressure. So what's happened? Why is the stock going down? Why does the stock go down? This is complicated economics we're going to do now. Why does the stock go down? When you release earnings that are up, you know, as Jeff said, you know, 20, 30%. Why does the stock go down when you tell the world you're going to earn 50% more in the fourth quarter and then get on TV and say you're really going to deliver? Why does the stock go down? Come on, Jerry, you're a sophisticated economist. Why does the stock go down?
Pressure, they don't believe it.
Pressure? They don't believe it. Okay. No, I think they do. The analysts said that we would do it. We have a track record. We haven't missed a quarter in the last year. So why do you think it goes down? Come on, anybody want to answer it?
It's moving with the market, right?
It's moving with the market. What's happening in the market? How many of you buying stock this week? Anybody buying stock this week? There's no buyers in the world this week. Right? What happens when there's no buyers? Stock goes down. Right? It's not that people are selling. We're going down on low volume. Right? And everybody's going down more than us. You can't believe what's happened to the valuations of companies. Starbucks has gone from $24 billion down to a $7 billion company. Right? We're worth more than Chili's and Borders put together. Right? I mean, it's just amazing to me. All right? So what's going on? How do we think about it? What I would try to tell you, and this comes from a friend to a friend, is to say, ignore the stock market. Ignore the stock market as it affects your company. Ignore the stock market as it affects your 401k. Ignore the stock market as it affects your life. Right? What goes down comes up and goes around. And when you invest for the long term. You don't trade. And the really important thing to recognize is the economic issues that we have in our country today, the economic issues that affect the stock market, they're not the real economy. Right? They're not really there yet, and the stock price is not us. One of the things we said long ago is we are not our stock price. Right? We run a quality company, everything takes care of itself. And so my point to you is ignore the stock. But here's what we should pay attention to. Right? What's going on out there? There's that recession, right? We all know it's coming. We can feel it. We got friends that are leaving, getting knocked out of work. There are hundreds of thousands of people in America that are losing their jobs. 200,000 in the financial industry. All right, that's going to extrapolate probably somewhere. The unemployment rate is going to probably go somewhere from 5% today up to 7, 8, or 10%. There's a recession out there. So how does that affect a company like Panera? How does it affect it? You saw it in Jeff's third quarter. We have our transaction counts going down. All right? Our transactions are -3. Now let me give you the good news and the bad news. The good news is -3% transaction fall off. is among the very best in our industry. I don't know anybody else who's running as high as that, maybe one other company. Just to give you a sense, Starbucks is negative 10% right now. The industry, casual dining, is negative 7%. That means it's not a lot. To be down negative 3% means 1 out of 33 customers aren't coming anymore. You know, just saying, if the unemployment rate goes up 3%, that's 1 out of 33. That means they don't come, they can't afford it. Right? That's the reality. Right? The good news is we're doing a lot better than most people. Here's the bad news. The bad news is it's still negative. Right? That's the truth. So let me be direct with you. Right? Let me tell you how we think about it. The most important thing is to understand that is to tell the truth and understand we are in a recession, and we have to think about our company from that context. Right? It's not to avoid it and pretend to be something we're not. So how do we do that? The first thing I would say to you is we want to be very careful as we go into this. One of the things that Jeff said, and I feel so good about, is we never got into the fancy stuff. We didn't buy back stock. We have no debt. I mean, not one penny. We don't owe a penny to any bank in the world. We're not beholden to anybody. We're as strong a company as you can imagine. And the trick for us is to protect that and to be very careful with that. And as we protect that, one of the things we have to be very careful of, one of the big failures to me as a manager is if you ever face a place where you got layoffs and all that kind of stuff, right? And you look at it, I'm sure here, I mean, every day you pick up the paper and you read about it, that would be a terrible failure for a company. Not to say that we would ever contemplate it. The trick for us as we go into next year is to not get ahead of our skis, is to be careful and to watch where we are and make sure that we're going to go in with a cautious attitude. We're going to go in and assume that our transactions will be better than most, but still be down 2 or 3%. And we're going to go in and make sure that as we look at where we spend money and where we make investments, that we're making them very carefully. We'll continue to make investments, but in a lot of places we're going to try to really hold the line and be cautious. And what I wanted to say that to you is, I say that to you, it's because I want you with me as we do that. And I want you to understand we're doing that to try to protect what we have and be very conservative and be very careful so that we don't get a far of ourselves. Let me say something else. What else we're doing is we're coming at this with as much hard-hitting energy as we can. You'll see the fourth quarter. You're going to see us with some media. I think you're seeing it in St. Louis right now, where we're back on the radio. You're going to see us doing that in about 10 or 12 markets. You'll see us with this new suit that Jeff referred to, the larger size suit that's like adding another % to our transactions. In January 28th, we're going to have a grand opening in now 1,300 Paneras around the country. And we're going to grand open the complete full breakfast that Panera's featuring. We're going to have the new coffee that you have here in St. Louis that we have at home. You're going to see us talking about our new breakfast parfait, the breakfast sandwiches, and we're going to invite in somewhere in the range of 200,000 guests, the best guests that our associates pick out, and invite them in to try our coffee and make a donation they like as which we'll match for Operation Donation. And we're going to invite in a whole bunch of other folks on January 28th for free coffee. Right, but we're going to roll this out nationally. We're going to make a big deal out of it. And so we've got a lot of energy at that level. Let me take it one step further though, and then I'll sort of open up to your questions. As I think you heard, I spoke to Kramer, I actually view this as a time of extraordinary opportunity. This is a time that a lot of changes will occur. And there'll be a lot of changes in the economy. People are going to go out of business, for real. Companies are going to fall off the map. But when that happens, there's extraordinary opportunity for those that are strong. And we're strong, and we're certainly stronger than almost anybody in our case. I mean, we don't have the government backing us like Wall Street, but other than that, for Main Street, we're strong. And I would tell you that we're running great, and we're doing good things. And I would say to you that there's really 3 ways you take advantage of it. When our board meets next week, we'll be asking the board, how do you take advantage of it? What do we do in this case, given the strengths that we have, the concept, the cash flow, and the balance sheet? And the first thing is this is a great time to develop. I was driving down Manchester today, and there's a lot of for lease signs. Right? A lot of things that are opening up. Real estate we couldn't get our hands on, we can get for significantly less cost. And the best time to develop, the best years we had, the best stores we've ever built were during a recession. Right? So you're going to see us attempt to gear up to deal with that, always keeping our standards high. The second thing I think you're going to see is we're going to continue to look for good people. We have gotten more phone calls from people we know and from people who've heard about Panera and our success that want to join us. And this is an opportunity for us to continue to add really strong people so that we can continue to grow and develop. And then third, and most significantly, our view is the whole world is under unbelievable pressure. The guys who are sitting in my shoes in companies all over America are under extraordinary pressure. They got big bank debts. They borrowed too much money to buy back stock at too high prices. They borrowed money and invested in the wrong places. And those banks all want their money. That's what the credit crunch is all about. The intense pressure on those guys you cannot imagine. What do they do when that happens? They start to cut corners. They start to optimize. They start to get short-term. It was what we were so afraid of last November, that we would ever be put into that place. They are out of control. They don't control their destiny. And the reality is that as they optimize, as they cut the quality, as they cut the quality of their food, you see it happening all over. That's an opportunity for people like Panera to come along and increase the quality, to differentiate. One of the things you see us testing here in St. Louis is new lettuce. Right? It's lettuce that we think is as good as anybody out there. What Panera wants to do is we want to give you a $12 salad for $7. Not compete with everybody to see who can make the cheapest $4 salad. Right? And it's really there. We can do it. And so we're going to continue to invest in the quality of what we do. We're going to continue to invest in differentiation, in being special and distinct. And the real objective is as we come out of this, and there will be an end to this recession, as there always is, in 12 or 24 months from now, things will look up, and people will feel better. You'll all still be working here, and we're going to continue on Merry Road. We have the opportunity to step up into the top 10 food service companies in America, and we will come out of this that much stronger. And that, simply put, is our goal. So I think I would tell you that we're feeling really great in a strange kind of way. This is what we hope for, this kind of opportunity. And our conservatism and our attitude towards how we built the company is built to withstand this. Okay? Thank you. Everybody's dressed in black, and one of the things that makes me nervous, if there's any holdups in town today, they're going to be blaming Panera people, huh? So please make sure you get home okay. I'm open to your questions. Rick, Jeff, anybody's here. Yes, sir.
Is there any plans to work on the dinner portion of the menu?
Is there any plans to work on the dinner portion of the menu? Scott, you here? Did he run away? All right. Is there any plans to work on the dinner portion? I would say not directly in the next 12 months. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. We have a dinner business. 20% of our sales are at dinner. But the dinner business we have is essentially what I call lunch in the evening. I'll get home Friday night, I'll run in the house, I'll see Nan, and I'll say, let's go to a movie. And she'll say to me, that's cool. And I'll say to her, what are you doing for dinner? And she'll look at me like, what are we doing for dinner? Where are we going for dinner? Right? And I'll say, okay, we got 45 minutes, where do you want to go? And then we'll both look at each other and say, let's go to the bread company, let's go to Panera. The point is that we're eating lunch in the evening. And I think that Panera is not likely to try to be a casual dining place. Hell, they're all going to close anyways. Panera, we're all going out of business. Right? Panera is essentially going to be what it is. Now, what we are going to try to do, so that you're not going to see us have products only for the evening, and we saw that last year. I think what you'll see us roll out as we get to the fourth quarter, we're playing with a great macaroni and cheese. That's awesome. Dan Kish has worked on it. We've got some great stews. We have a number of different products. The brisket sandwich we've been testing here at home in St. Louis. You've seen that. We've got a number of different things that we've got, but they will extend through lunch and dinner. And they're meant to further root that evening segment. But this is a year, let me tell you simply, our whole mission, right, is to go after and build the breakfast business 4 or 5%. It's to hold our own at lunch and dinner, and then figure out how we further build the gathering place. Yes, go ahead. Julie, is it?
No, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
I'm wondering about the financial health of our franchise groups, and do we have any expectations of possibly having to buy franchise stocks?
Franchise health, you want to take it, you want me to? There you go. Everything's good. Everything's good.
Thanks for the backup. Bill more than backup. Yeah. Actually, from a health perspective, we're really fortunate in a sense, right? We have 39 franchise groups, all of which have, actually, when you combine them all, they're at 75% of their build-out, which means they're at a place now where they're really generating a lot of cash flow. And frankly, they came to us having already done this before. So they're not really generally looking in the credit market today. And as a result, you know, they're continuing to build pretty well. And obviously, economic times, we think, make sure they get the right sites and all those other elements, but we certainly support that. But we've got a really healthy franchise. I'm not going to throw it.
Okay. I just would add to what Cup said one thing. I don't think there's going to be a sale or turnover of many of our franchise groups, and I'll explain to you why. Our franchise community is a lot like the housing market, which is to say most of them are saying, you know, they're having the very best year they've ever had. Remember, Jeff showed you, our store profit in the base stores is up like 20%. Okay, that's because we've grown, for most of the year we grew the transactions and we were able to grow the gross profit, right? So we were up. And that's a really good news. And our franchisees, they frankly had that benefit, and they didn't have the hit that we carried this year, which was wheat, where we took a big hit in wheat because of the way our contracts work. Now we'll get that next year. It's our buffer next year, because wheat's coming down. It's what's going to allow us to be protected through much of the year. But at any rate, the point is that for most of our franchisees, this is very good times. And so I don't think there's a franchisee, or very few, that are under sort of fire sale conditions like the housing market or anything. And so I think that you should not expect to see dramatic changes in our business. If we ever have to do that, that's when we're in trouble. Anybody else? Who else? Yes, go ahead in the back.
Are you sort of looking at like getting more like another restaurant, like bakery type thing, or is it going to be more of a casual dining experience, or what?
Are we looking at getting another? Basically, you're saying, are we going to buy another concept?
Yeah, we're going to like
So the question is, are we going to buy another concept? You know, this is a good time for that. Prices are coming down. I would say to you this. You will never see, we're not stupid. And stupid people do things they don't know anything about. Right? You're never going to see us say, we're a restaurant company, we can run any restaurant in America. Right? We're never going to be in casual dining, we're never going to be in a business we don't know. What we know is about soups and salad and sandwiches. And within our little space, just like we did with Paradise, I think you'll continue to see us want to dominate that. We're the best in the country at this. We're going to stay the best in the country at this. And if there's anybody out there that, you know, that is less cannibalizing than us, we might look at it. Having said that, we still got the best growth vehicle going. Panera is as strong as they get. I may sound funny, but we're only 1,300 bakery cafes. There's room for many more in this country. And that's our primary growth vehicle. We'll continue to be opportunistic and hopefully not stupid. Are we looking at new markets like new countries?
No, in the country.
In the country.
Don't throw it.
He's afraid of it, isn't he?
Well, we did actually. Pass that.
We opened in Canada. We're now international. We opened our first cafe about 3 weeks ago. Did $58,000 Canadian. We opened our second Canadian unit. We opened our second Canadian, or will open a second Canadian unit in a week and a half, right, Todd? And our third, the second week of January. So we're going pretty fast in Toronto, and we're continuing to look at new partners as well. Our hope is that that'll be a market that'll support 3 different franchise groups. And as far as, I think you've heard that question in the past about international markets. We've looked in the past, you remember I was traveling all over, but at this point we're going to put that on pause and really focus on North America and what makes sense in a time when we should be doing that. So,
You
should I
can
throw
throw
it back? Huh?
You can throw it.
Oh, throwing it's fine, apparently.
Okay, I would add also domestically, most of the markets in the country are basically called for. They're either company or franchise. So it's going to be less new markets and more continued development there. I mean, just understand, we got what, 50 stores here in St. Louis, our most mature market. If you extrapolate that out, that's 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000. I don't know what the number is, I don't know how many it is. There's a part of me that believes too many is actually bad, that makes it less special. And we don't have that goal. We want to run a quality company, a great company, not the biggest one. And so we think about that a lot. But I think you continue to see us grow conservatively, particularly now. We're going to, we're pushing, I'll say the development, we're pushing on development now. We want to do great deals, not just okay deals. We want to be smart about it. This is the opportunity to do it and lock them in for the long term. Okay. In the back.
Is there any plan in the future to centralize via or jump more into the via industry like a lot of our competitors?
The question was, is there any plans to centralize VIA, jump into the VIA business, push it? Rick? By the way, I'll give you the answer, and I'll let you give Rick color comment. Yes, yes, yes.
And to show you how yes, yes, yes Ron is, magically in a meeting about 2 months ago, our $500 million target became a $600 million target for a business that's about $160 million. I don't know.
It was 7.
Oh, 7. Okay. But VIA is definitely one of the 5 top growth areas that we've identified. Jim Rand runs that business, and he reports jointly to John McGuire and me, with the split really being John is focused primarily on the data IG, although obviously we both look at both sides of it. But Jim has started to really build out from an infrastructure standpoint an organization to attack this. Peter Wright came over, thank you, Mike Cupstas, came out of the franchise organization to start to build some real processes around how we deal with the sales side of that business. Neil Jane has joined as heading up the financial analysis group, joined an existing team of a bunch of people who are currently working on VIA. And right now, Jim's actually building out the longer term plan for how we're going to address that business, and is in fact going to be presenting it to the board next week. But some of the things that have come forward, probably the biggest thing is operationally centralizing the operations within a market through hubs. And we've tested that in Minneapolis and Chicago, and without going through all the results, very promising on 2 fronts. First of all, it's demonstrated to us that out of a hub, which is really a centralized small facility just dedicated to the catering business, that we can produce a lot of that volume very efficiently out of a small space. But probably equally exciting is the impact it's had on the retail side, because in those cafes that were fulfilling VIA, that were handling that volume, that obviously at peak could get in the way of being able to do the production for the retail business. And especially you can imagine what it does in the cafes when that big order comes in at 11 o'clock for 30 sandwiches, and how do you produce for that while you're trying to satisfy your lunch business. By operating these hubs, what we've seen is very efficient growth in the catering business through the hubs, but actually the retail businesses gaining a lot, if not all, of that volume back that they lost on catering, because they're just a lot better at handling that peak volume at lunch. So we think it could be a real win-win. Having said that, it's really early. So for 2009, we're really going down 2 paths. One is to make sure we produce really strong basic growth through a lot of blocking and tackling of the things that are in place around catering, focusing on great production, great delivery systems, doing what we can to leverage the existing regional catering sales managers, all of the tools we have today to drive the business, but then starting to test things with hubs being an example, and there are others, to really say, how can we look at this business differently? Another example of that is we're going to be piloting, which the IT folks are working with Jim on, an online capability to give us better ordering capabilities. So there are a number of things like that that we think are going to be important for that business in the long term. So bottom line on this, we all see a lot of opportunity. When Ron said that we're going to selectively invest in areas where we think the return can be there, certainly V is one of them. Having said that, I'm sure we're going to try a lot of stuff. Hopefully a lot of it works. Some of it probably won't, as long as enough of it works that it gets us to that 5 to 6 or 700 million, we'll be in good shape. And for all of you right now who are working on that effort, again, I'd say thank you, because it's a big initiative. It has a lot of impact if we get it right, and we know it'll take a lot of work to get it where we need to. Thanks.
You know, you guys touched in a number of these questions the core of the issues that the board deals with. And I'd like to just bring in on a little bit of it and maybe give you an under the covers kind of perspective. The real question for Panera is the long term. It's not next week or next month. We're going to be fine this year. You know, if we think about this year, we've got a great retail business that's doing fine. We've got, this benefit of the FDF and the wheat prices coming down, now gas prices to cushion us. And we'll have a fine year even if the transactions are -3. If it goes much worse than that, it will get a little tighter. But our key for next year is really to be careful and then really to prepare for the future. So where does the future growth come from? Right? What is the board saying and how do we think about that? It really comes down to 5 things. And you've touched on a number of them. The first thing is our retail concept. If there's one thing to look at, Jeff talked about metrics, if there's one thing to look at, it's transaction growth. Over time, I can tell you, and I spoke about it at the last meeting, if 3 years from now we're able to grow transactions 1% a year over those 3 years, we are going to be one of the few concepts in this country that continues to succeed in growth. If our transaction growth is -2, -1 over 5 years, we're going to go the way of lots of concepts that fall off the map. 75% of concepts have negative transaction growth over 5 years. So the first and most important thing is to keep Panera relevant, to keep it special, to keep it different, to keep pushing the envelope so we have people that want to seek us out. Once you give up on doing that, you're done. You might as well go home. You're just simply into optimizing and squeezing, and then ultimately it falls apart. That's number one for us. And that's the thing you'll keep hearing us talk about. Keep looking at those transaction counts over the long term. And if you look at it over the last 10 years, we've grown transactions somewhere between 1% and 2% a year on average over the last 10 years. This may be a slightly different year, but we're going to be prepared for the future. The second thing I would mention to you in terms of how we build this business over the long term is the catering initiative. Rick spoke to it. All I can tell you is, it's about a $160 million business. We think we can get it to 5, 6, 700 million. I don't know what the number is. I only know it's a $6 billion business nationally, and nobody owns it. And we're the only people with a national footprint, the only people with stores all over the country. We can own that business, and we got to get behind it. And that's why we got Rick and John working on it. We got Jim Rand going on it, and that's why we'll continue to invest in it as long as they keep our faith, because we think this could be a huge business for us. Third, you're seeing us begin to play with a Panera in which we take about 20% of the cost out of it for smaller markets, smaller locations, but we do so without hurting the brand in any way, shape, or form. We will never walk away from concept essence. We will never walk away from what we are. But if we can get that cost down by 20% from $1 million to $800K, that means we can make what we need to make to continue to grow at stores that are $4,000 a week less than they are today. That opens up another 800 stores. That's sort of the third initiative. The fourth initiative I would say to you, which we really haven't spoken about, but you heard in the Kramer piece a little bit talk about it. The truth is, we're getting to be a big company. We're $3 billion. We serve 6 million people a week. We have huge scale. We're the 14th largest food service company in America, and I truly wouldn't be surprised if we're in the top 10 by the time this recession is over, because we're continuing to grow. We're one of the few ones that are continuing to grow through it. So what does that mean? How do you take advantage of that scale? Some suggest it's media. We're the least marketing intensive of any of the top 20 in the country. I don't know, right? And we're playing with a bunch of other things where we're doing data analysis, a company called dunnhumby, some of you may know. We're doing a whole bunch of understanding of loyalty. How do we market the individuals? I don't know. But I know that the real thing for us is to crack is how we take advantage of that scale that we have And that scale is a really powerful thing, which we now own. If we can crack that, that becomes another lever for us. And then, I guess, to the point that was asked about, where we go, I think that Panera has the potential, much as we have with Panera. We may be operating multiple, as we have with Paradise, multiple versions of what Panera is. Right? Panera is perfect for one niche of soup, salad, sandwich. There may be slightly different niches that we want to play within. And that's another opportunity for us, where we go. And that's just 5 of the 6 or 7 or 8 things that we're really betting on over the long term. And so what we're thinking about is the long term, and we want to protect that long term by being very careful over the next 12 months. Okay, 1 or 2 more and then we'll wrap it up, because I know you all want to stay here all night with me and I would with you, but I'm not going to let you. Okay. Anybody else who would like to ask a question? Come on, Jerry. I'm counting on you. You're my man. What did you bring, a speech? Give the microphone.
Paradise. How are we going to take that multi-state?
Paradise, so we're going to take in multi-state. That's an easy one. It already is. We're in about 7 or 8 states with Paradise. I think that our focus with Paradise is really to continue to support it in the Phoenix market where it's dominant, and give it everything we got. And then to really look at what we have there and try to make a judgment of it and decide whether it can exist in markets in which we have them there. We will do nothing that would hurt us, but we're certainly interested. Does it serve a slightly different niche at a quality level consistent with Panera? And by doing so, does it help us solve this problem that we believe that ubiquity breeds contempt? We don't want Panera to be on every corner. Well, I think it's one of the failures of Starbucks. When companies too familiar, it's not very special. And so the question is Paradise become a vehicle that actually builds the whole company without hurting Panera, which is where we start. Great, thank you. One more? Anybody else? Okay. All right. And seeing no more, I know you want to stay, but you can't. We're going to say goodnight and thank you. Hey, that's it. Good job. These guys did a great job. Whoa. Back to the announcement. Very important here.
All right, so we got a couple of announcements. For those of you who live here in St. Louis, you know that the Highway 40 interchange has been closed for a while from the Brentwood section going west. They're actually running ahead of schedule. They think they might be able to open it a little bit early, but the plan is to actually get it open by the end of this year. That's the good news for those of you traveling west into the office. The bad news is once they do that, they're actually going to close it down from Brentwood east going into the city. So for those of you coming in from the city to the offices, you got to find your path. So we're giving you a good 6 to 8 weeks notice. I would start figuring out your travel paths. For those of us that came west, we found that after about 3 or 4 days, it all kind of worked itself out and it was okay, but we want to make sure that you guys have the upfront notice to make sure that you've got the right path to do that. We'll actually have a session for the east travelers, that, like we did for the west travelers, to talk about all the options that are available to you as well. So that'll be forthcoming. You'll get some announcements on that. For our new hires and family orientation participants, welcome to St. Louis. And we want to make sure that you guys know that there's an opportunity for you to mingle with folks after this, so you don't have to go home if you don't want to. If you run into somebody that you don't know, just extend your hand out and say, hi, my name is Becky, I work in HR, who are you? Because we're growing so fast and we don't have the opportunity to connect like we used to do when we were small. And this is the opportunity to create fellowship, get to know a few folks. A lot of these folks you probably talk to on the phone and you just don't know what they look like. So don't be afraid to reach your hand out and say, hey, I don't know who you are, so I may have talked to you 100 times, but please make sure you get a chance to meet me. Or your goal should be like 10 new people while you're here. It'd be awesome if you could do that for us. For those of you going over to the orientation tomorrow, it is at the Newman Center, which is over on the WashU campus, not here. And the shuttles will pick you up right at the entrance of the hotel. We'll have a shuttle at 6:45 and 7 o'clock. For those of you traveling in, just make sure you're there by 7:30 so you're there in plenty of time to do the bread bash and all that good stuff. So that's That's it.
Whoa, I have one announcement and a question for you. I can't give up the mic. All right, so, I just, very quickly, I want, if I can get the levity committee up in the corner at the end, we just need 1 minute to talk about something. Second, I have a question for you. I've kind of grown to like this.
Yeah, where's the rap? Give the rap.
Panera. What do you think? Should I wear this on Kramer's show next time? Everybody, good night. It's a conservative CFO. Hey, no fashion takes, Jeff. Who would wear pink to a meeting like this? Weird.
Good job, IT.